What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. It's been a little bit since we've had the show. We've been working through some issues that we've had, camera issues mainly, and I think we finally got it up and running. If we do have an issue, I can fix it really quick. So hopefully everything will go smooth today and we'll get through the show. Danny West is going to hop on because it's a really important month for Razorback recruiting. June didn't used to be a huge month, but now it is with camps, official visitors, a ton of commitments that have just happened recently. So we're going to talk about all that and get your questions in as well because we're going to have a very question-driven show. So all that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Before we get started, of course, there's plenty of ways to watch and listen. In fact, we're streaming now on every major platform. You can watch us on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and set it so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. We're also on Facebook. Be one of 90,000 Razorback fans to join us on our Facebook page. We're on Instagram. It's a pretty new page on Instagram, so go there and check us out there. We've got a lot of content coming up on our Instagram page as well. So all the different major platforms, and right after the show, you'll be able to check us out on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you may go to find that type of information. Okay, everything's running smoothly now. So the problem that we've had, just to go over it, basically what it is, it's the camera and the connection issues and the connection stuff. I've gone through to adding new Wi-Fi stuff. It's not the Wi-Fi, added a 2.4 channel, which actually helped with some other things. But we've gone through and just everything, every cord. And basically like I took it down from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second. That seemed to help. And then I changed dongles. I mean, I feel like that's basically what it's come down to, but I actually have to start the show and in the background, unplug and replug everything back in again after I go live from behind the scenes. So usually about the 5-minute mark. So we're coming up on that is when the signal would start to degrade, and it's something to do with this camera. So that's ultimately what we have had. I mean, we've been troubleshooting this. I mean, it's a lot of steps to go through. So you guys don't want to hear about all that. We want to get to Danny West first, and we're going to check out what he has to say. Go ahead and get your questions in because we're going to go to those too. Again, it's a very question-driven show. If you got questions about recruiting, you got questions about just football in general, basketball, whatever you want to talk about, and we'll go off topic if you want to. We'll probably run a pretty long show just depending on how many questions we get. So since it's been a while, probably do a little extra long show. Okay, for those of you who don't follow Danny, you can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X. He's a Hog Sports recruiting analyst, does a great job for us, and going to provide a lot of good information today because there's been a lot of activity with camps and all that stuff. Danny, how's it going, man?
What's going on? I've been busy.
You have been busy, Danny. I mean, from the commitments to the camps to, I mean, People don't understand sometimes the job that you do. And I was explaining it on Drive Time the other day, because it's just like you go from, you know, Sunday was Father's Day. You got two girls, and I don't imagine that was much of a Father's Day for you, although, you know, you enjoy covering commitments and the job that you do and stuff. But, you know, you're away from your family. You're at Razorback camps. You know, there's official visitors coming in. You know, I tell people all the time, sometimes, you know, a kid wants to commit at midnight, and that means you're working at midnight, or they want to commit on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or July 4th, right when the fireworks go off or something like that. And that means Danny West is working. So I think you always put it really well. It's not hard work, but you work really hard at it. And sometimes, you know, duty calls, and it can be a difficult gig sometimes, but we certainly appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to pop you on, let you go now. So the system, the video is degraded, and we're going to fix it real quick, but you're able to go, Danny.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate
Hey,
you
Danny,
saying that.
wait just a second. We're gonna have to stop it for a second and start it again. Okay, so just hold on 1 second. Everybody, be patient with me. Again, we're trying to troubleshoot this, but we'll be right back. Okay, settings. It's like unplug and replug for some reason. And road. All right, Danny. You should be good to go now. Let's hear it.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, going back to what you said, I appreciate that, first of all. And happy Father's Day to you.
Thanks.
And with that, I don't mind telling you, you know, there are a lot of times like that, but there's also a lot of Tuesday, Wednesday mornings in the fall where I get to go deer hunting, right? Where everybody else is having to go into a job. So there's a little bit of give and take on both sides. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. But yeah, been busy with camps. A lot of really good prospects coming to campus. You mentioned the commitment run that they've been on lately. They're up to 12. I think they went into June. What, 17 days, 18 days now. So yeah, they're on a pretty good run. We'll see what the rest of the month has in store. There's a couple of in-state guys, as we know, that are coming down to it, and they would both be really big ones. Carius Kern obviously let us know yesterday that he took that LSU visit this past weekend, and now he's ready to decide. He told me he's going to release a video Thursday at 11 a.m. So a commitment coming from Carius Kern out of Marion on Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we'll see what happens with that one. I'm sure everybody wants to dive into that one first. Trey, if you'd asked me 10 days ago, I would have said, man, he's back in the fold. Arkansas is going to get this kid. And at that time, he said, I don't think I'm even going to take that trip down to LSU next weekend, meaning this past weekend. And lo and behold, he did. And now I talked to, you know, guys down there, and it sounds like LSU's feeling good about it again. So, you know, I say all that to say this: regardless of what happens Thursday, Trey, you know it's not over.
Yeah.
You know it's not. He's too good, and there's just too many moving parts. Too much to still be decided on Arkansas's end. You know, let's just call it what it is. I think there's a little bit of hesitancy on some kids' part. Arkansas obviously going to have to go out and prove it and win some games and get back in the good graces with some of these upper tier type targets that they're on.
Danny West joining us. So Danny, like right now, they've got 12 commitments, so they're a little bit behind the pace of most schools out there. If you look at like the top 25, I think pretty much.
I think they're seventh in the SEC in terms of
number.
quality.
Yeah. Most of the teams in the top 25 have more than 12 commitments. I think almost all of them probably do. There might be one out there, but so they're a little bit behind in terms of the total. Their overall rank is 34th right now. Their composite rank's 34, obviously counting in the transfer portal rank. You mentioned a couple of guys there. What do you see happening? And then I want to talk to you about some of the most recent commitments, and I'll just kind of go down those guys one by one.
Yeah, I brought up a couple from inside the state and failed to touch on Omari and Robinson there at Parkview, the big-time safety. We've got him as a 3-star. The composite likes him as a 4-star, and he's still on for June 29th, I believe. I want to say that's a Saturday. So big announcement coming from the safety out of Parkview. Looking at Arkansas, LSU, Oklahoma, Oregon still in there. And Georgia, I think he canceled that official visit. So a lot of competition there, fresh off of an Arkansas official visit 2 weekends ago now. Obviously, one of 5 offered targets there at Parkview High. I've already got Quentin Murphy, the athlete quarterback, out of Parkview. So we know Quentin's going to work on these guys. I like where they stand coming out of this past weekend with Montario Elston and Cameron Settles, both of the running backs there. We'll see relatively soon on both of them. I think both of them probably within the next few weeks are going to make a decision as well. So all those Parkview guys starting to come off the board, and Omarion obviously would be another really big one if they're able to get him.
If you want to read Danny's content, you can sign up right now for 30% off at HawgSports.com. It breaks down to just $627 a month. Build it on $75.18 for the year. It's a discount of $44.22. So most of Danny's content is VIP. So if you want to follow along, paint the big picture of Razorback recruiting with us, then go to HawgSports.com. Sign up for 30% off. You can also take the monthly plan if you like, which is $9.95. Now, the benefit, Danny, of the monthly plan, you get Paramount Plus for free. Now, when you come off that yearly plan at 30% off, you can get Paramount Plus for free. But as long as you're on the promo, then it only comes with the monthly plan. So 2 great ways to sign up. I tell everybody, Danny, like, hey, are you subscribed to Paramount Plus? If you're subscribed to Paramount Plus, you might as well subscribe to HawgSports because you're going to get HawgSports for basically, I think, $120 for the whole plan, and Paramount Plus, which is a $100 value, for free anyway. So you're getting, no matter how you look at it, you're getting something for free for what you would otherwise be paying $120. It's a good deal, and you want to read Danny's stuff, that's the best of it. Go to HawgSports and sign up. All right, Danny, let's talk about some of these recent amendments. I guess maybe we can go a little backwards. Maybe let's go backwards order. To the most recent, I guess. So Keandre Johnson, that's a tough one. We're going to have a hard time spelling that. Keindre Johnson, easy last name. But he's the most recent commitment, right?
Yeah, I believe so. 6'3", 230, edge rusher out of Terrell, Texas. And I'm with you on the spelling there. He might end up KD Johnson real quick. We'll ask permission on that one. But yeah, good kid. Not just huge, not physically imposing, I wouldn't say, but you watch his film, highly explosive type player. I think it's interesting his offer list. Yeah, you look up, he's got, the Florida State and LSU and USC and these types. And sure, a lot of those came really early on. We're talking early 2023 even, but you look at it now, and some of them came in the last few months here from LSU and USC and Pittsburgh. Even Arkansas just offered on February 13th. So it's not a case of he's 2 years ago popular, like we see sometimes. You get them on the back end when a lot of those offers aren't committable. I think it's good to see, USC, LSU here in the last few months still coming after this guy. And really good pickup for Deke Adams. I'm impressed by Deke. I try to give credit where it's due. They've got a tough gig. Everybody knows that right now. It's tough to recruit 4 and 8, but it seems like to me this year may be one of its more impressive cycles just in terms of attracting visitors to campus. He's had a really good group. You look up, Eric Mateo stacked up 3 offensive line commitments in a hurry, all in this month so far. And now Deke Adams steps out with 2 to start his side of the cycle. So Keandre is a really good pickup. I'm sure your next one will be JQ Madison. You've always shortened his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was on his commitment card. So I'm 6'2", 275. Interior defensive lineman out of Alpharetta, Georgia. You know where that's at, Trey Biddy?
I should know where that is, but I'm familiar with it, but way down south.
Way down there. But he had offers from Missouri, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Kansas, a few others. Arkansas again just offered this one on March 7th. So you see it again, another quick turnaround, get him on campus just one time and on the commitment. So they've still got positive momentum in that regard. This is the type of kid, Madison, in my opinion, is the type of Georgia kid that Arkansas should be able to go into Georgia and get anytime they want. And I think they ought to be willing to give guys like this.
Yeah.
Just the high potential that you see so often with guys like this, mid-range 3 stars out of Georgia. We've seen it at Arkansas a lot, Malcolm Shepard types, and the list goes on and on. I think you have to take a flyer on these types, and the potential is just through the roof for this one. I really like J.Q. Madison.
Well, Danny, there's also, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that, in the state of Georgia that are, as you mentioned, not as highly regarded. Cam Ball would be another one.
Sure. Yeah.
Jaden Johnson's another good player that Arkansas got out of state of Georgia, and there's been several. But PK makes a good point. He says, "LOL, all 2 and 3 stars, 2 and 10 season, here we come." So, what is your thoughts? I mean, you made a comment on this just the other day, just about difficulty with coming off a 4-win season, and rumors of Sam Pittman's job security and stuff. How difficult it is to overcome some of the stuff, and it might be a little difficult to get some 4 stars.
Yeah, I think 4 stars are going to be tough to come by, and that's not something we're just now discovering in the month of June. You go back and bring up some of those HawgSports tapes from late November, early November, when Arkansas got smoked a couple of times, and we came on here telling you it might get a little bit tougher in recruiting, and as part of it, the simple case is it's not so much that Sam Pittman just became a bad recruiter, but any of that. I watch the kids come to campus. He's still super popular. His coaches are still really popular with kids. But I'm telling you, the problem is these same kids you're recruiting against Missouri, Ole Miss, A&M, LSU, Oklahoma. And once they leave your campus, they go to those schools, and guess what they're hearing right now? Hot seat, 4 and 8.
Yeah.
Be careful. You don't want to go there. You're hearing that everywhere, and that's just part of it. And, it's not beating a dead horse. It's not bad mouthing the staff or anything. That's just the reality of it. And that makes your job really, really difficult as a recruiter. And losing has consequences. It does.
Yep. No question about it, Danny. And, you also, I mean, it's such a short window also. So, like, if you do pick it up, say you come out of the gate storm, I'm not predicting, a lot of people ask me to predict my prediction for the record this year.
Yes,
5 wins. But a lot of people have asked me to predict that. But, there's an opportunity for them to overcome, some of these really tough early games. And then things open up a little bit possibly for them if they can overcome them. But, you have that quick turnaround with December being right there. But if you can come out early and strong, and maybe you can change some minds with some guys. But that's what it's going to be. It's going to come down to. I mean, I think you probably would agree with me, Danny. But, like, if they come out and they go 0 for 3 starting out against, Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, it's going to be really hard for them to recover mentally, and going to be hard for them to recover on the recruiting trail. And I mean, really, if that happens, you can obviously envision a scenario where this whole thing blows up. So it's kind of do or die for them, not only to help the recruiting class, but also, to save jobs with this team.
Yeah. And the good thing is there's always a surprise or two in the SEC. And maybe finally it's Arkansas's year where it bounces their way a little bit, because there's going to be one team for sure every year that you all think, man, it's just, it's not in the cards. That's over with. And here they come. So maybe, I mean, it's going to absolutely require something really, though, Trey. You talked about there those first 5 weeks. Obviously, we're not talking UAB or UAPB or UAB at home, but those first 3 out of state, at Oklahoma State, at Auburn, down in Arlington for Texas A&M, and then you look up, here comes Tennessee and LSU to your place.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, I'm with you. I think they need early momentum, and again, I think there's still plenty of time. That's why I tell people, no matter what happens this month, even if you get Curious on Thursday and you get Omar on the 29th, some of these other in-state guys, still not over. Don't go celebrate the streets, because there's still a lot to be decided on both sides.
They do have a composite 4-star in this class. Connor Howes, he committed back on June 14th. Good-looking offensive lineman out of Florida. What can you tell us about his commitment, Danny?
Yeah, that was a good one. A really good one by Mateos. I've been impressed by Mateos so far. I know everybody, you think and you kind of expect, well, Sam Pittman and Eric Mateos be 4 and 5 star on everybody. Well, we just covered a lot of that, a lot of the reasons why. But this is the next best thing, and he's done a good job of getting 3 in the fold, just like him. About 6'6", 300 on Connor. He had a really good offer list. I think the Miami offer made it really interesting there in late May. About a month ago, they offered. And I said, well, before that, I was hearing it was going to be pretty much Arkansas's done deal on this one. They're feeling really good about it even before he got to campus. So, here comes Miami, in-state offer, got some momentum at Miami again. And I thought, it's probably over with for Arkansas. Well, lo and behold, stayed on him, got him up here for the visit, and he held true. So that was a really good get. I want to say he committed, 4 or 5 days ago now. So he's one of your most recent guys too. I don't think we've even talked about Blake Cherry yet, Trey.
No, I was getting to him. Yeah.
Okay. During our technical difficulties last week, maybe, but out of Owasso, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The fighting Keon Hatchers.
Yeah. He was back at the start. I guess he kind of kicked off the month of June, right?
Yeah, he did. I want to say first day, he and Quentin Murphy went back to back. We've seen a couple of those now, back to back commitment days here in the early summer. But yeah, Blake Cherry's one that I talked to Gabe Brooks about him. He loves him, and I thought it was interesting. You see him come out of the gates with an 88 overall player grade, 45th offensive tackle in the country. That tells me he's probably going to be one to watch. Not guaranteeing anything, but if a really strong senior year, maybe he's a guy that moves up to 4-star status.
Yeah, and thinking center on him, right?
No, I think he's going to play outside.
Okay,
probably going to be a tackle. I think the next guy we're going to talk about, Cash Courtney.
Cash Courtney. Okay, yeah, Cash. I had him confused. Okay, go ahead.
Cash is about 6'4", 275 right now. More of your interior type. He plays guard at Carthage, obviously Carthage, Texas, home of Gabe Brooks. Great program down there. Arkansas obviously has Takius Crawford from Carthage on campus already. But, yeah, you hit it. It's supposed to be a center. Arkansas feels like he's got really, really high potential as maybe even a future NFL guy at center, Trey, is what I'm hearing. So they're in love with this one, obviously. He committed to Eric Mateos at Baylor last October, I believe. And then, of course, Mateos made the switch in December, immediately started working on Cash, got him on campus in January, got him back earlier this month. All the weekends run together at this point. But I want to say 2 weekends ago, and ultimately got him to flip, within the last week or so here. So those are 3 really good ones from Mateos, in my opinion. And he's not done yet. I think he's got a couple of more that you look at. Keaton Jones was just in here, kid out of Kansas. Another kid down in Louisiana, Lionel Prudhomme. I'm liking Arkansas's position with Lionel right now, although he may take a little bit longer into the summer. But Mateo's still involved with a couple of guys here who could make it a 4-5 deep class in a hurry.
All right, Danny. Well, so a lot still coming up. There's still visitors, camps. Are camps pretty much getting close to? Is there one more?
Yeah, I think there's one more tomorrow. I think that's it for camps. Thank God. I mean, they just wear on you, man. I spent 5-6 days in a row on camps last week. So
it's just not the same
at this point.
It's just not the same as it used to be. There's a few prospects there, but it used to be. I mean, even going back to Bobby Petrino time. I mean, there would be a lot of like legitimate prospects, like guys that, back when Nutt was at Arkansas, it felt like maybe over half of your recruiting class would be guys that came to your camp, and it's just It's just not that way anymore.
Not that way anymore. They're tough to come by. A lot of kids, it's kind of the way of the world, but a lot of kids, once they get those offers, they don't see the need to go out and compete. That's their right. That's the coach's right, parents' rights to make that decision. But, man, it sure makes you appreciate the ones that still do, the ones that show up because they don't have to. I was watching Kane Archer again for the 50th time come to camp. He and his brother, Cash Archer, out of Greenwood. I'm sitting there going, man, these dudes both got a million offers. Obviously Cash still trying to work towards that Arkansas offer. But Kane, he's out there just throwing with everybody all day, sweating. So, I appreciate guys like that. But, you're right. Camps ain't what they used to be. They're not as long as they used to be either. You know, I think they started like 10. They're done by 1 o'clock. And I'm going, man, we used to be out here with the lights on, still throwing 7-on-7 at 9:30 at night. So it's different. It's way different now.
So, Danny, you released an article this morning. Again, you can read Danny's content right now at 30% off for an annual subscription. It breaks down to $627 a month, billed at just $75.18 for the year. There is no promo code or anything like that required. You just go to HawgSports.com and you can save $44.22 for an annual subscription, or you can try us out on the monthly plan and get Paramount Plus for absolutely free. So, Danny, you released an article. I don't want you to give away everything, but just kind of what's upcoming. You may have covered a lot of that stuff, but what do we have to look forward here briefly?
Yeah, we talked about the lineman camp coming up tomorrow. I think there's supposed to be a couple of underclassmen coming to that one that they're pretty excited about. So we'll see what comes out of that. We've seen new offers go out after camps, but again, not like what you used to see where there might be 7 to 10 guys getting an offer. There's been one here, one there, a couple after this one, that sort of thing. So maybe some more offers going out after tomorrow, and then we start getting into that final weekend. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Final weekend coming up here, Trey. Right now, I think they've got 6 or 7 official visits coming in this weekend. We can run through them. I think there's at least 3 guys who are already committed. We're talking about the kicker, Evan Noel, out of Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Grayson Wilson, the quarterback, out of Conway now. That's going to take a little getting used to, switching over from CAC to Conway. Grayson Wilson. Jaden Shelton, linebacker commit out of Dallas, South Oak Cliff. He's been on board for a couple of months now, so getting his official out of the way. And then the mystery man down in Warren, Arkansas, Antonio Jordan, making a long-awaited official visit. We'll see what comes out of this one. Haven't talked about him because there's really been nothing to talk about. It's Traylon Burks 2.0. Not a whole lot of intel coming out of that camp, and that's to be expected. That's how they do it at Warren, and we appreciate them. So we'll talk to Antonio hopefully on Sunday and get his thoughts. Reginald Vaughn is a kid who just came up, I want to say 14 days ago, out of Hartsfield Academy down in Mississippi. That's a loaded school down there. He's coming back for an official. That's a defensive lineman out of Mississippi. And then you might have to help me out with this name right here, Trey. Muiz Tankara.
There's no way you got that right.
I mean, we're going to hope. Muiz Tankara. He's a wide receiver out of League City, Texas.
So, Danny, I want to
6 or 7 guys so far, and then that period starts on the 24th and runs through the next 24th of July.
Yeah. Okay, Danny. Well, that'll be good for you. Got a few questions for you here. Matt Hill wants to know if there's any update on Keandre Barker, the running back out of BB.
Yeah, you know what? He shut it down. He sure did. He got that Arkansas offer in May. Obviously a kid that had transferred and played down in Texas last year at the Woodlands. Now back in the state. He was going to go to Miami Central this year, Trey. So this is one that was kind of bouncing all over. But back in the natural state at BB, Arkansas offered him maybe a month ago, right? And then got him on campus for an unofficial. He scheduled an official. He was supposed to be back maybe 4 or 5 days later after that unofficial, and took that trip up to Penn State, and I think he just shut it down. He said, my recruitment is done. Been committed to Penn State since, I want to say, April of 2023. So we're talking a long time now, and well over a year. So not really surprising. The good news is there's a few other in-state guys. Cameron Settles, Money Elston right there at Parkview, already got one on board, and Markeelan Batten out of Atlanta, Texas. Haven't seen an official visit date with that one yet, Trey. Maybe something to keep an eye on there, but haven't seen Batten set his official. Maybe he shows up this weekend, but, you know, it was a Jimmy Smith recruit, so I'm just throwing it out there. But, yeah, Keandre Barker, it seems like he's shut it down and no longer considering the Hogs.
Next question comes from Dwayne. He wants to know about Kane Archer. Is there any chance with him being a Hog?
Yeah, I think there's still a good chance. We just talked to Kane last week. I've actually got another story coming on him really soon here. Got some quotes from him, but he loves Petrino, man. And first of all, I want to tell you this, Trey. You deal with it a lot because you cover every single day of spring ball and fall camp. But you were out there every day and you saw Bobby Petrino, and I'm sure you've kind of gotten used to it again. I go out there to these camps and I'm watching this guy back on Arkansas's campus coaching quarterbacks, and I can't believe my eyes sometimes. I can't believe he's back. But anyway, it's just kind of something I've been working through out there. It's wild. And then I drive by Bud Walton. I'm like, yeah, Calipari coach is there. What in the heck's going on, man?
I know.
It's a wild time. But anyway, it was fun to watch Kane out there working with Bobby. And he's a huge fan of the guy. Obviously, Cash, his brother, came to camp in search of that Arkansas offer. I want to say Cash checked in 6'1", 219, ran a 4.72 40. I think he was in the 4.4s, maybe 4.3 on the shuttle. So, he's doing all he can. Made the switch from defensive end to linebacker. And I'm talking so much about Cash because I believe it could impact younger brother's decision.
Without a doubt.
So, yeah, without a doubt. So, keep an eye on that, but no offer yet for Cash. We'll see. I think maybe it's a case where Arkansas wants to see some tape. Typically when there's a position change, you want to see 3 or 4 of the first weeks there. So something to keep an eye on as we get into the season out of Greenwood. But yeah, I still think as it relates to Kane only, I think he's a big fan of Bobby. And all things being equal, I would probably say Arkansas is right up there at the top at this point.
This is wild because, we've had so much problem with the camera and the way it interacts with StreamYard and stuff. And I literally have to start the show, unplug the camera, wait for it to reset and plug it back in again. And it happens like at 5 minutes or so. And now we're at the 32-minute mark. We haven't had an issue again. It's just
knock on some wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah, there we go. Bill wants to know, Danny, what's the real reason the best in-state recruits won't sign with Arkansas? And, I think people would probably, like if you were to do a study across the country of in-state players that signed with their local schools, Arkansas would actually be pretty high up there. As weird as that sounds. Yeah, as weird as that sounds. But what do you think the reason they seem to miss out on, a top guy here and there, a Walker White last year or Courtney Crutchfield? And of course, nowadays you also got to talk about money. That's a big part of it too.
There's a whole bunch that goes into it. And the first thing is you're right about that. I have done the study, and Arkansas is way above everybody else in terms of SEC. Keeping offered in-state guys at home, they're way ahead of everybody. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds crazy, but it's just the math of it. There's fewer of them, and most of them still pick Arkansas. It may not always feel like it because, when you lose an LT Tenpenny or Zach Brooks went to Clemson one year, those stick out to you. KJ Hill went to Ohio State. Those are the ones you remember. Josh Frazier going to Alabama. But, there was probably 9 other guys in that cycle that signed with Arkansas, if you get my point. Why it happens, I think there's a lot of reasons now. You mentioned money. Obviously, that's a big reason. Arkansas's success rate over the last decade, 12 years, is probably another reason. Mm-hmm. But then I think there's something to the idea that and we've talked about it before, even in life, Trey, you push a kid through a door, he's going to push back every time. And I think that's kind of I'm not saying it can be a downside of being the only show in the state. I think they're groomed and expected and almost forced in some cases, pushed to an extent to Fayetteville. And a lot of times that's just going to backfire on you because you get a kid from small town Arkansas, blows up with 1 million offers. He can go here and here. Man, it gets to their head sometimes. Mm-hmm. And Fayetteville's just not as appealing to them.
So, Danny, here's an interesting comment. This is from Jawan Malone. And he says, Danny needs to come in studio because the audio isn't as good. But Jawan, that's something we're working on. That's one of the reasons that we switched over to this platform and have gone through some
studio?
Of the Juwana Studio.
Juwana Studio, you got one.
Yeah.
I think that's something we're working on for real.
Danny has literally built out a studio in his house.
I call it the Dan Cave, Trey.
The Dan Cave.
I know you don't hate. I know you don't like the man cave reference, but name's Dan. I'm going Dan Cave.
Yeah.
Got my brother-in-law building me a sign to go above the door there. Dan Cave.
Right. So eventually we'll have, like a little. I've got it moved over here. We'll have Danny right over here joining us on the show. So that'll be cool to have. But it's coming.
It'd be nice because I look a little chunky in that picture that you used there. I'm probably minus 35.
Minus 35 since then, huh?
Yeah, it was about 212, 214. We're hovering around 182, 184 these days.
Yeah.
A little bit healthier.
Well, Danny, we appreciate you hopping on the show today. We'll talk to you again soon, and it won't be too long before we get you set up. We got the lights, we got the camera, we got the
That's right.
the microphone. But I'll see you next weekend, and we'll start moving in that direction.
Yeah, see you in a few days. I'll be back down there.
All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother.
All righty. See you.
All right, everybody. That's Danny West. Again, follow Danny at Danny West 24/7 on X. We're saying X now. He's a HawgSports recruiting analyst. And if you want to sign up and read his content, again, it's 30% off right now for the annual subscription, or you can go $9.95 for the monthly subscription and get Paramount Plus for absolutely free, which I believe is also about $9.95 a month. So it's a pretty sweet deal to get Paramount Plus and HawgSports together. You're basically getting something free, and you get Paramount Plus when you sign up for the monthly subscription for as long as you're subscribed to HawgSports. So we're a Paramount Global company under that umbrella. So pretty cool deal altogether. All right, we're going to go to some questions now. See what everybody's got for us. Prediction on the football season. A way too early prediction. It's getting to where it's not way too early. I mean, we've been through an entire spring. And I've said before, again, I know I'm repeating myself, and that's just kind of the stage that we're in right now. Everybody, I think, is going to be better in the SEC when you look at the middle and lower tier. We'll see on Florida. Maybe Florida could be an exception on that, but I think most schools are going to be better than they were last year. And Arkansas needs to be better. We talk about the defense probably being comparable to what they were last year as far as personnel. You lost some key guys, but you also got some guys that are older, like Jalen Braxton. You would expect him to be better. The problem is everybody else is better. So if you're just the same as you were last year, then everybody else is rising above you. So Arkansas's defense needs to be better. Is there any question that the offense is going to be better than they were last year? If you think the offense is not going to be better than they were last year, let me hear from you, because Bobby Petrino is obviously going to be a better coordinator for him than, what was his name? Dan Enos? Yeah. So obviously offense is going to be better. Now, are they going to be, the question for me is, like, the offense going to be comparable to what it was 2022, 2021? Can it be that type of offense? So we'll see on that. But I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of thinking 5 wins. I think that's, but a lot can change if they can win, come out like 2-1 those first 3 tough games. A lot can change. You can build some momentum. You get Tennessee at home. Obviously, you get a bye week, and then LSU. There's an opportunity there. Some tough games. It's the SEC. But if you can overcome, and that's asking a lot, don't think it's not asking a lot to go to Oklahoma State and win, to go to Arlington against Texas A&M. Well, I guess next is Auburn, at Auburn. I mean, no matter what Auburn's struggles are, don't think that it's going to be easy just to go down to the Plains and win that game. It's going to be very difficult. Arkansas is going to be favored to lose that game no matter what happens against Oklahoma State. Texas A&M probably going to be picked to lose. Now, what you could consider, though, Oklahoma State has started slow in the past. Let's bring up Oklahoma State's schedule. Let's look at them last year. All right, so last year, I got to go back to 2023. How do I go back there? Okay, so last year, Oklahoma State went 10-4. They finished number 16 in the country. They went 6-1 at home, by the way. They beat Central Arkansas, UCA, by 2 touchdowns. They edged Arizona State. They lost to South Alabama in Boone Pickens Stadium. This is the one game that they lost. This is week 3. They lost 33-7 last year. And then they lost to Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. Then they picked it up and started putting together a winning streak. But it's not the first time that they've started off a little bit slow. Now, last year, or 2022, I believe they won 7 games. Yep, 7-6. 2021, I believe, is a 12-win season. Yep, 12-2 in 2021. And, they edged some teams. They barely beat Missouri State, which was Bobby Petrino, 23-16. They barely beat Tulsa, 28-23. They barely beat Boise State, 21-20. And then they beat Kansas State. No, excuse me, 11. They barely beat Baylor, barely beat Texas. They barely beat a lot of teams. They lost to Iowa State in Ames, Iowa, 21-24. But that was a 12-2 team that, again, started off pretty slow. So there is an idea out there that Oklahoma State could be a slow starter. Now, they have Ollie Gordon, who's the best running back in the country. I think he ran for 1,800 yards last year. Their quarterback is a 7th-year senior. I mean, so they've got some veteranness about them, when Arkansas, on the other hand, is going to try to learn. Now, we can go back to Bobby Petrino's first year at Arkansas, and it was kind of difficult. I mean, they barely beat Western Illinois or Western Carolina, one of those teams, but they barely beat them. I mean, I think it took maybe that Cowboy go-get-it play to beat them. They barely beat Louisiana Monroe that year. They just started off very slow. Now, the difference is that team was starting off with some very young players. They were just kind of throwing Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, and all the Chris Gregg, all those guys into the fire. And, baptism by fire, really, that group ended up benefiting from that kind of stuff. But for this team, you've got a lot older players that should have learned. In fact, I asked Bobby Petrino about that in one of the press conferences, and that was kind of the point that he made, just having older players who've been through system changes before, more developed physically, and should be able to compete. So appreciate you, Jordy, for the question. Aussie Maverick being a dork again. You're not a troll, Ozzy. You're just kind of a hothead. A troll is like, you think you're being funny, but you kind of just lose your mind. Cody James says, I know a lot of folks on the Razor's Edge. It's our premium forum where we break a lot of news and kind of guide people down the path of what's going to happen, and obviously have a lot of discussion on topic and off topic, a lot of off topic discussion this time of year. But a lot of folks on the Razor's Edge are upset with the number 3 stars they've signed. But Trey, I feel like this class is pretty solid, all things considered, mainly last season's record. I think there's a chance for some of these guys to be pretty good players. I also think there's a chance for some of them to move up in their status. Now, none of it's going to matter if Arkansas doesn't win. This whole class will fall apart. I mean, everything will reboot if they don't win. So they've got to win. But there's not a mistake on recruiting rankings. I mean, if you are a 3-star recruit, there is like a 6% chance that you will get drafted. There's a couple thousand 3-star recruits every year. There's 32 5-stars. There's probably around 300 to 350 4-star recruits. The odds of a 5-star getting drafted are dramatically higher than the odds of a 4-star, which are dramatically higher than the odds of a 3-star. And then a 2-star is like 0.2%. I can't remember the guy that put that information out. I wish I had his name. Maybe I can find it real quick, because I sent it to Rick Schaefer when we were talking a little bit about it. But I don't know if I can. I don't want to waste too much time, but I wish I could credit that guy, because he put together. Let me see if I can find that real quick, because he put it together a lot of there we go. So, all right. So here's some of the numbers. This is from Preston Guy. You can follow him on Twitter at PGuy77. For the stars that don't matter crowd, here's the star ratings of NFL players drafted in the 2020 NFL draft versus the total players in the 16-17 class per 24/7 Sports. 5-star. This is drafted. 19 of 30 were drafted. That's 62.3%. That's a pretty good clip. I mean, football is way harder to evaluate than basketball, because these guys in basketball are going against each other in AAU, summer ball, all this stuff all the time. It's not uncommon to watch maybe the number 3 player in the country play against the number 5 player in the country, or even, whatever. I mean, all the top players play against each other. 4-star, 73 out of 311 4-stars were drafted. That drops from 62.3% to 23.9%. 3-star, 110 out of 1,831. That's 6%. 2-star, 32 out of 1,949. That's 1.6%. Stars do matter, as Preston says. So the next stat he comes up with, this is, just bringing up the point about some people pointed out that this means 65% of five-star values are misevaluations. That's kind of a missed idea. 34% chance for a 5-star to be drafted in the first round versus less than 1% for some other. So 5 stars drafted in the first round. Again, this is from Preston Guy. 11 out of the 32. And again, when they're doing star rankings, they're trying to predict the first round. They're trying to predict the first round of the NFL draft. 11 out of 32. That's a 34% chance. So if you get a 5-star, there's a 34% chance that you've got a first-round draft pick and a 65% chance that he's going to be drafted. If you get a 4-star, you get a 4-star recruit, 12 out of 311. There's a 3.8% chance that they're going to be a first-rounder. A 3.8% chance. You go from 34% to 3.8 that they're going to be a first-rounder. A 3-star, 8 out of 1,831, that's 0.4%. 0.4% that they will be a first-rounder. 2-star, everybody brings up, hey, 2-star, this 2-star got drafted. A lot of times 2-stars are guys that just weren't evaluated and go to camps or anything, or a super late bloomer. 1 out of 1,949. It's a 0.005% chance. Okay, stars do matter. Don't make any mistake. Arkansas has done a good job in the past of evaluating 3-stars. I can give you a long list of 3-stars that did not pan out. A long list, probably a longer one. But some of them do. And you get to bring in, you used to get to bring in 25, but now it's unlimited. Okay, so another rough day for the Stars Don't Matter crowd. This again from Preston Guy. He says, in the first round of this draft, here's a breakdown of the players and their highest star rankings out of high school. So, yeah, it's pretty much the same comment there, but 11 5-stars, 12 4-stars, 8 3-stars, and 1 2-star. Spent a lot of time on you, Cody, because we appreciate you there, being a longtime subscriber over at HawgSports. Okay, next question is Ross Henry. Ross says, Trey, does Pittman make it through the year? If he doesn't, what game would he be let go? If he does make it another season, how many wins does he need to get? What are his must-win conference games? All right, let's look at the Arkansas football schedule. So does he make it through the year? I mean, based on my prediction, no. Do I hope Sam makes it through the year? Yes. I mean, I want to cover a winning team. This is a great home football schedule. Now, some of the times aren't ideal, but again, they're like ABC, ESPN. They're on great networks, right? So they're on, a lot of people are going to see them. Maybe not ideal for tailgating for some of them, but, hope that Pittman wins 8+ games. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would we not hope for that? Like, win, get this thing going, get it rolling again. Bobby Petrino's back on the hill, who knows what they can do. I really like Arkansas's defensive staff too. Deke Adams and Travis Williams and Darren Wilson and Marcus Woodson. Just a lot of good guys on that defensive staff. So, yeah, it would be ideal if they could win 8+ games and be retained and, prove everybody wrong. I don't necessarily see that happening. I mean, you asked me like when. Well, there's a couple of bye weeks, right? There's between October 5th and October 19th. You come out of Oklahoma State, Auburn, come out of Texas A&M and Tennessee, and you don't win those games, there's a bye week between October 5th and October 19th. The next bye week is between November 2nd, Ole Miss, and Texas, November 16th. So, I mean, those are always weeks. I'm not calling for that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Sam Pittman should be. None of that stuff. I hope the guy wins 8+ games. I think you do too. I think most fans want to win. Some of them don't. Some of them, want change no matter what. But that's just kind of my opinion. I like Sam Pittman. I think we have a good rapport. I think maybe he probably has been frustrated with some of the questions I've asked. Sure. I mean, that's fine. Just the job I do. That doesn't mean I don't respect and like the guy. Okay, and just do the job. And I think he understands that. We talked about that. Matt Hodges has a question about Kern and Robinson. PK, we brought your post up on 2 and 3 stars, and we talked a little bit more in depth about that. Bobby did a lot with 2 and 3 stars. He also did a lot with Kyla says Bobby did a lot with 2 and 3 stars. I don't know if he did a whole lot with 2 stars. Javante Herndon might have been a 2-star, but he was a guy that didn't go to any camps or anything. He ended up going to the NFL. But Kobe Hamilton was a 3-star, I believe. Maybe one service had him a 4-star. But guys like Jarius Wright, Joe Adams, Greg Childs, 4 stars. DJ Williams, 4-star. I don't think DeMarcus Hodge or Ray Dominguez were 4 stars. Those were 3-star guys. They both turned out to be pretty good. Jericho Nelson was a 4-star recruit. He was a good player at Arkansas. Didn't have an NFL career, I don't think. Maybe just like practice squad stuff. Was Isaac Madison under Petrino? But he was a 4-star. They had a lot of 4-stars that balled out for him. I would say they had a pretty high clip. The 4 stars that they got were like, I read out all these numbers and stuff. Those guys achieved. So, all right. So we've had a few complaints on, I think it was probably when Danny was on. Again, we're going to get that remedied with Danny. But we've had a few complaints on audio from Facebook crowd, but I haven't really seen any from the YouTube crowd. And again, I think that's probably just from, what is going to be an old system. We're going to get that resolved on audio. We're going to bring Danny in studio. Again, he's working on all that stuff right now. Just built his studio out. We've got the equipment for him. It's just a matter of setting it all up. Ethan Malone says Otis thinks this team makes a bowl. Do you share that sentiment? I don't think that, but I hope Otis is right. Yeah, I mean, like I look at some of the guys on this team. Let's just break it down a little bit, okay? We're going to go into a little more detail, Ethan. So I look at this team and I see a quarterback that reminds me a lot of Matt Jones. And what did Matt Jones do? He won games or lost them. Like I felt like Matt, for a good stretch there, all the way through like his junior year, he kind of decided whether Arkansas won or lost. He would make some tremendous plays or maybe an interception or a fumble. I think back to like that Texas game. Matt was a great player here, and he's going to be remembered that. Obviously, he is remembered as that. But don't make any mistake about that. He pretty much decided the outcome of games. He did. And I could see Talon deciding the outcome of games in a very similar fashion. There was a stretch that just kind of, and maybe it was the install. Maybe they just got too much of the install going, and it was too much for him at a time because there was a middle part of the spring where his production just fell off. He was inconsistent. He was throwing balls way too far out of bounds where receivers didn't even have a chance versus how he started was very consistent. I mean, day 1, 2, 3, I was like, this dude's a starting quarterback. It isn't even question that this guy's a starting quarterback. And I still felt like that even when he hit a little bit of a lull. Now, I do think that he had some advantages, obviously, in the red-white game where, you have fans there. It's on TV. You want to make sure your quarterback has a good game. He's going against a second-team defense. So I think that there were some issues there. But what I see is a guy that's going to be on fire and a guy that's going to get cold sometimes. I hope that's not the case, but that's kind of how I could see it going. So that's your quarterback situation. They got some real genuine weapons at tight end. They've got some quality wide receivers. I don't know if there's an NFL wide receiver among this group. I'm interested to see what Monty Harrison does, but maybe Andrew Armstrong's an NFL guy. Now, who knows on Isaiah Sategna? He could ball out this year. But I don't know if I'd say that guy's going to the NFL at wide receiver. Now, tight end, I might say that about Lucas. I really like Marquise Gums too. Offensive line is going to be better. How much better is the question. I did not see as much penetration in the spring. I felt like, Fernando Carmona was a really, really good addition. I think Addison Nichols was a pretty good addition. And I think Keyshawn Blackstock was a good addition. Probably in that order. Probably would rank them in that order. I think Patrick Kudus moving inside was the right decision. And then, Joshua Braun, I didn't think was a weak link for him last year. I thought maybe he was the strongest offensive lineman for him last year. Him and probably Bo Limmer, who I think was out of position a little bit at center. So, and then we know Bobby Petrino's a better coordinator than Dan Enos. So they're going to pick it up there. Kicking game could suffer. That could be an area where you get some games cost you. I wasn't blown away with Matthew Shipley, but when I go back and look at his stats, that was a lot of, let's see, Matthew Shipley stats. That was a big point of conversation in the red-white game because he didn't have a great showing. This guy is 77.8% last year on field goals, 14 of 18, 3 of 3 from 20 to 29, 6 of 6 from 30 to 39, 2 of 5 from 40 to 49, and 3 of 4 from 50 plus with a long of 51. That's pretty good numbers. So he's going to be in some bigger environments, obviously, bigger stage. So we'll see how it shakes out for him. But they also added the Abilene Christian kicker as a walk-on. So, and lost the punter, Max Fletcher. So Devin Bale step in there. So that, there's some questions in the kicking department. Defensively, I've said before, I think they'll be pretty comparable to where they were last year. I think they got a big addition in Danny Salee on the defensive line at defensive tackle. Anton Junkaj, I think, could make an impact for him. Got Landon Jackson back. Eric Gregory, probably the most underrated player on the defense. And Cam Ball might have next level potential. And they got Keevy Rose back. Ian Ford is another guy that we're expecting big things from. Linebacker, it looks like there's some reason to have optimism, but you have optimism. You don't know. And that, to me, is a little scary. I think Brad Spence is going to be a really good player, but I just think that. I think Xavier Sori could be productive for him. Has a lot of athletic ability, but I think that. He was a former 5-star recruit. Worth and Dix, the two guys that they added late out of the transfer portal, both very veteran linebackers, so boost that room a little bit. But, yeah, I wonder a little bit about linebacker because there's a lot of thinking and hoping and optimistic. You don't know from a production standpoint. And then the secondary, Jalen Braxton should be better. I think they've got good competition with Keon Stewart and Marquise Robinson, Jaheim Singletary, some of those guys. Selman Bridges, the freshman, maybe coming on. And you got Jaden Johnson and Hudson Clark back, and then probably Danico Slaughter as your nickel. But I would say watch out for Tevis Metcalf, the younger brother of TJ Metcalf, who I also like both those Metcalf brothers. But watch out for the freshman there also. So what have I said? Have I convinced anybody of anything one way or the other? I just think the schedule is a lot to overcome, especially early. And if you don't come out on the bright side of things with that first 3 tough games, which are all away from home, which is ridiculous, we know things can spiral out of control. Now, they lost to BYU last year, barely. They shouldn't have lost that game. BYU went 5-7 last year. But they lost that game and came back and bounced back and played pretty solid overall, at least for at least a half offense or defense. And then the offense, kind of picked it up. But they actually, rallied and tried to beat LSU and really came to win that game and just didn't work out. So that it happens, but you can generate so much belief with a good start. And there's some teams in this conference, I'm not going to repeat it, but there's some teams in this conference that have positioned themselves to have a really good start. Throat's getting a little dry. I don't have a lot of endurance with this voice. Okay. Need the Parkview players. John Allen's thinking 2-10. I mean, it could happen. I'm not predicting that, but things could fall apart. I mean, there's definitely a scenario in which that happens. In-house politics, no. Now, I will say this. We've talked about a narrative of issues in-house the last couple of years. I know in 2022, during that season, there were issues in the locker room, and there were some issues last year in the locker room, and that just needs to stop. Honcho says Pittman gone by October. Will Causey says, well, OSU games set the tone for the season. Let me see if I can find a new topic that I haven't really gone over. Oklahoma State this is from In the Pod with J-Rod. I just gave you a promotion, J-Rod. Oklahoma State had the 122 total defense last year. Not too worried about them. Let's see. How many wins does it take for Pittman to go? Let me see if I can find something that's I didn't talk about running backs. I think I went through the whole offense and just avoided running backs for some reason. But Ken Phillips brings it up. Jackson is underrated. And Jaquindon Jackson is a guy that I really, really like. Now, sometimes I get wary of older running backs who have produced a lot, but I just don't get that impression from Jaquindon Jackson. I just feel like he's got a lot to prove. I'll say this. I asked Jaquindon about injuries. I said, Jaquindon. So I asked Jaquindon about injuries in one of the press conferences during the spring. And he just kind of looked at me and was just like, a lot of people say stuff like, I see the comments. People say I got paper ankles, that, I have this and that. I mean, the dude had a serious ankle injury, and I believe it ended up he played through it and like tore off from the bone. Like it just got worse. He played through it. It just got worse as the season progressed, like some serious ligament stuff. But he takes exception because he sees comments, people saying he's hurt all the time. He's injured, and that's the kind of attitude he had. And then I asked him about a catch he made. He made a 15-yard touchdown catch in one of the scrimmages. And I said, you didn't have a whole lot of catches last year. You made a really nice grab here. You think you'd be able to do more of that? He's like, yeah. People don't think I can catch the ball. And he's like, that's kind of attitude that he has. So he turns that, me commenting on a great catch he made, to taking exception to people not thinking he can catch the ball. He's like, I used to play quarterback. You catch the ball every play. Somebody else asked him about something about maybe thudding up in practice. He's like, yeah, defense thinks they made a tackle because they thudded you up. No, that's not a tackle. We're just practicing. That's not a tackle. They want to talk all that noise and stuff. So like this guy has a chip on it. I mean, this guy has a chip on his shoulder, something to prove to people. There's some athletes out there who will point to a school they didn't offer me. I'm going to go show out against them. And it's always that school that bugs them that they didn't offer. It's not the 20 other scholarship offers that they got. It's that one school. Trey Flowers took exception to Auburn not offering him, went out and had 3.5 sacks against them one year. It wasn't, Arkansas and all these other schools. And that's kind of the mindset. It's a Michael Jordan type of mindset where you put a target on people. And that's what I get from Jaquindon Jackson. Mason says, hey, Trey, is there anyone on the roster you have seen so far that could be a breakout star maybe people are sleeping on? I mean, I just talked about Jaquindon Jackson. I could also see Braylon Russell instilling a lot of hope for the future with people. I think that he has a lot of potential to be really good. I think Varquise Gums, I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets with Varquise Gums and Luke has a lot of 2 tight sets, a lot. Who else could be a breakout star for him? I mean, there's always the potential for Anton Junkosh. I mean, he had 15 sacks on the Division II level. Maybe he gets half that. If he gets 7 sacks, that's pretty solid. I mean, you're tiptoeing around all SEC recognition. You do something like that. He's got to beat out Nico Dabier first. I love Eric Gregory. I mean, the guy, you never thought about him entering the transfer portal. He just keeps his head down and does his work. 6'4", 325-pound, red shirt, super senior on this roster. And the guy didn't get enough love. I don't know that I'm going to say he's going to be a breakout star for him, but they had a pretty deep defensive line last year, and you didn't notice maybe that guys were getting hurt all the time. I mean, they had guys keep getting hurt, but they didn't feel it because they were so deep. And Eric Gregory still started all 12 games for him last year. Cam Ball has that potential. Brad Spence. Okay, so let's answer the question. I'm going to say Brad Spence. I have a lot of optimism for him. I think he could end up being a guy that leads them in tackles and maybe even sacks if they put him in that wide 9 spot a lot, which I think is what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to put Nico in that spot as much when we get to the season. I think you're going to see a guy with a lot of speed get out there, a lot of aggressiveness. And so I think you'll see when they go that mint front, you're going to see him rush the quarterback a lot and have a lot of opportunities to get sacks and pressures. And I think he could be a guy that leads them in tackles. So I'm going to say, just to answer the question, I'm going to say Brad Spence on defense. And on offensive side, I'll go with Braylon Russell and maybe Varkey's Gums. And I'm not going to say Luke Has because I feel like everybody already knows who Luke Has is. He's already kind of broke out. Spring game is not an SEC game, Megan. You're correct on that. Spring game is for show in a lot of ways. Sorry, I'm just trying to find something that's different than what we talked about. It may be a sign that it's time to wrap up. We've gone an hour, 6 minutes. Singletary. Who's going to be our top receiver? We talked about that. It'll be Andrew Armstrong. I would be surprised, barring any injury. I'll also say, watch out for Tyrone Broden. I think Tyrone had a really, really good spring. I thought, he dealt with some injuries last year. This is a guy that's 6'7" or something, 200 pounds. He looks like he's filled out a little bit. There's no reason on this earth that the guy should have averaged he had 15 catches and he averaged like 8 yards a catch. For a guy that big, I mean, there's no reason you should be averaging 8 yards a catch. That's just ridiculous. That's just screams of misuse. Yeah, there you are, Ken. Brought him up right there. So I would absolutely look out for Tyrone Broden too. This is a guy that at Bowling Green had 500 yards each of the last 2 years he was there, and then just, didn't really have we know what happened last year, but look out for Tyrone Broden. I think he has a chance to be good, but I still expect Andrew Armstrong to be the leading receiver as long as he stays healthy among the receivers. It could be Luke Has. Luke Has could be that guy. Okay. Landon Jackson. I don't know if we can count Landon Jackson as a breakout star. Guy was all SEC last year. He would have been drafted probably if he had come out. Pro Football Focus says Anton Junkaj. Is Sori a good linebacker, says Megan. So I think he's athletic. I think he has a chance to be a pretty good player. He was a former 5-star recruit. This is a guy that had 17 tackles at Georgia last year. I mean, I know that's not an exceedingly high number of tackles, but they did play him some. They used him. So he was out there. But they need those 5 stars so there's, a couple of 5 stars on defense, right? There's Jaheim Singletary, who played some last year, maybe started 4 games or something for him, 2 to 4 games, and Xavier Story. Both those guys came from Georgia. Both of them former 5-star recruits. They need those guys to play like 5 stars. Like Drew Sanders, when he came from Alabama, he played like a 5-star. Some injuries second half of the season, but he came out ferocious. And he's got an injury right now. I think he's going to miss the season. Linebacker room is young, yes, but they did add 2 veteran linebackers. So guys had 60-plus tackles. Smaller schools, Marshall and what was the other? Jacksonville State. The Marshall linebacker, Dix, is a former 4-star recruit who played at Florida State, I believe. Yeah. Offensive line, says Cliff, was a lot of 3 stars. Last year's offensive line, let's see. I think Kudus was a 4-star. Chambly was a 4-star. I think everybody else was 3-star. Oh, Braun was a 4-star. So not all. But you can take guys on offensive line that have size and develop them into better players. That happens. Iowa does a lot with 3 stars on defense. Sure, they don't play in this conference. Razorback fan says audio is great for me here on YouTube. Yeah, I think YouTube seems to be the best channel so far. We'll work it out. I mean, it's the off season right now. We're trying some new things. We're trying to, we always add something a little bit different. And I've been meaning to do this. Actually, I've been meaning to bring on, all platforms and stuff. We'll do things a little bit differently. Maybe not have as many ads. If we can get some sponsors. Hey, if you're interested in advertising, hit me up at Trey Biddy. Hit me up at Trey at HawgSports, TREY at HAWGsports.com. If you want to advertise on the show, let me know, and we'll do more in-show advertising versus more ad breaks and stuff. Do I see any freshmen making an impact this year? Braylon Russell. We talked about Braylon, so I'm not going to go over him again, but yes, I can see him making an impact. If we're including redshirt freshmen in that, I don't see any at tight end. I mean, Shamar Easter, he's just got so much ahead of him right now. You also got Andreas Puska. Offensive line, no. Quarterback, I mean, if something were to happen, then Malachi Singleton would be the next guy, but hopefully nothing happens. I mentioned that. I think I mentioned the guys, Braylon Russell, and then I think Tevis Metcalf has a chance, and maybe Selman Bridges or Jaden Allen, maybe. But I would say if I'm picking two, I would say Braylon Russell on offense, and on defense, I'll go. Oh, CJ Brown is a possibility. I think he'll be on the travel roster at wide receiver. I don't know if he's going to break out into like an impact role, but I think he's got some promise for the future. So CJ, Braylon Russell, I'd put him first, and then on defense, I think Tevis Metcalf. Starting linebackers are going to be Xavier Sori and Brad Spence. If they go to a 3-linebacker look, it has been Carson Dean, but you've also got Dix and Worth, who came in after the spring, who will compete for that. The freshman punter from Cabot, I believe, is Sam Dubwig, Dubwig. And no, it looks like Devin Bale will be the starter. Do I see any conflict between Coach Pitt and Bobby P? I haven't yet. I mean, it looks like Donnell. It looks like Pittman is giving him pretty free reign, and I think he does that with defense too, trying to step back and be more of a manager and stuff. The thing with Pittman, we need to get past the idea that he is learning on the job or something like that. Learning things. This is his 5th year as a head coach. He needs to know what he wants to do at the end of the game. I think he's going to give Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson, who plays a big role on defense too, and Bobby Petrino on offense, a lot of free reign to do what they want to do. Now he'll say some things here and there like, hey, you've got 2 downs to go for it coming up on 3rd down. You got 3rd and 4th down to get this, and that's something they worked on in the spring, maybe the last year too, but playing 3rd down to go for it on 4th down. But a lot of those decisions are going to decide if they win games. Do we kick it here? Do we punt it? Do we go for it? Those types of things are, what wins games. And let's look at last year's schedule real quick. So last year, the first tough game was BYU, and Arkansas lost by a touchdown. Then they lost by 3 at LSU. Texas A&M handled them pretty good. They won 34-22. It wasn't a blowout, but they won that. That game. I never felt like Arkansas is better, or they could come back and stuff like that. I just felt like Texas A&M was better than them. They lost to Ole Miss 27-20. That was a battle. They lost to Alabama 24-21. These are not blowouts. Now Mississippi State 7-3 was one of the more disappointing games that I've ever covered. That was just you got to be kidding me. After that Alabama game, Hunter Yurachek tweets out, these guys deserve to have a packed stadium coming for them, and all this stuff. And then this is what they get. 7-3. The only offensive score came off of a Jalen Braxton interception, and then they kick a field goal. They lost 7-3. It's an 11 o'clock game. That game just sucked. Dan Enos is fired. They went down to Florida and won for the first time ever in overtime. And then they came back home and looked like they just didn't want to play. It looked like everybody's planning for the future, planning for the transfer portal, laying down and taking it. 48-10. That's what it was. That's laying down and taking it. Auburn, there's no reason that if they played Auburn earlier in the season, there's no way that game's 48-10. but they laid down. Then they just got past Florida International 44-20. You lose KJ Jefferson. I'm sure he wanted to go out with a bang, and he got hurt early. Rocket Sanders, I believe, also was hurt early in this one, or he might have been hurt in the Auburn game. But you lose, he was hurt in the Auburn game, so he didn't have Rocket Sanders. But 48-14 just got the doors blown out off of you by a Missouri team that, frankly, believed in what they were doing. So early in the season, nobody just whipped them. Nobody just blew them out. They just kept losing, which is equally bad. Game that I can't wait to see this season, that's going to be Oklahoma State, Donald. I mean, no question it's Oklahoma State. I've never been to Stillwater for a game, and that's the first major one. I'm not like thrilled about going to UAPB and watching them beat the doors off the Golden Lions, and the game be over at halftime. I'm not blown away by that. I do like it's a Thursday night. Jackson will be a hammer, says Philip Bickerstaff. Yes. Mason Allen Rigsby says, when will we be going back to weekly shows? Need the options. I'm like obviously trying to get this thing squared away. This is the time to do it, but we'll be doing more regular. I do plan on taking a vacation next month, but I plan to be back and hopefully start running these shows on Mondays. But I plan to be back next week to do another show. And maybe again, I'm trying to work out the kinks in this stuff. So the only way to work them out is to do the shows, right? It's going to suck if we fix the whole line just for the D line to be trash. I don't think the D line is going to be trash. I think they've got, let's talk about the D line. You got Landon Jackson back, who's an All-SEC performer, going to the NFL next year. Need him to stay healthy. And then you've got Nico Davier and Anton Junkaj on the other side. You've also got, who am I leaving out? Who's playing behind Nico? Why am I not remembering who's playing behind? Oh, Quincy Rhodes. I think Quincy Rhodes has a chance now. I think Quincy Rhodes, good understudy to Landon Jackson, who's very similar in size. That's a good foursome at defensive end. And the good thing about that, you moved J.J. Hollingsworth year before last to defensive tackle, and this spring you moved Caleb James to defensive tackle. Both those guys are undersized. They're like 270, 280. They're a little undersized at defensive tackle, but you could always move those guys back outside if you needed to, if you had some depth issues at end, if you needed some, a little more stout player. You also got Charlie Collins, who was, I think, the highest or second highest rated recruit in the class, depending on the service you look at, who's a freshman. And, freshman defensive ends tend to struggle sometimes in the run game, even if they can get after the quarterback pretty good in the pass game. And you got Kavion Henderson on the other side, who plays in and that buck spot, which they call the wide nine spot, which they call the buck. Switch it, reverse it. Is that what they're calling it? Or are they calling it a jack or something? I need to brush up on that, actually. So you've got some depth at defensive end. Defensive tackle, I think you've got 5 defensive tackles ready to go. And Eric Gregory is very solid, a very solid SEC player. Cam Ball might have potential at the next level. Those are your starter. Keevy Rose was a good player for him last year. Started a couple games, played very regular. We have high hopes for Ian Gerard, and I mentioned Danny Salee coming in. So not a bad group on that defensive line. Has it been mentioned this is the second year with the defensive staff? Yep. You look at Marcus Woodson and the things he did at Florida State from year 1 to his last year. They progressed pretty significantly every year in pass defense. Defense made significant improvement. Let's look at that. Let's look at the stats last year. My stomach's rumbling. It's time to eat. There we go. Okay, so in 2022, Arkansas had the worst pass defense in the country. There it is, pass defense. So Arkansas allowed 294.7 yards per game last year through the air. That was dead last nationally. 2022. 2023, last year with Marcus Woodson, Travis Williams, Darren Wilson, all those guys. Deke Adams, of course, played a role. Defensive line, pass pressure, that plays a role. Last year, Arkansas was 4th in the SEC at 202.8 yards per game. Let's see what that was national. Now, I'm thinking it's 30-something. 32. 32 nationally. So you go from like 131 to 32 nationally in pass defense. That's pretty significant. So, hey, maybe make another jump. That would be nice, wouldn't it? We'll see. And I don't think it was like because they're giving up a bunch of rushing yards. Rush defense. Let me see if I can go back to SEC. Rush defense last year. So rush defense in 2022 was 170.8.1, excuse me. 170.1 yards per game, which is ninth in the SEC in 2022. And last year, 154. So they gave up fewer rushing yards and fewer passing yards last year. Significantly fewer passing yards. Cam Ball and Spence. I mean, you could say Cam Ball might be a breakout player too. Talking about the three-star offensive line when Petrino was here. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a couple of those guys. I mean, DeMarcus Hodge obviously was a standout on that team. Ray Dominguez. Is the SEC overrated in this season? I think this is not an overrated year. Appreciate all the comments, Donnell. I don't think this is an overrated year for the SEC. I think they'll bounce back pretty strong. Okay. I think we did a record for the show. We went 2 hours here. We have 1,253 people watching. Appreciate all the people checking us out. Hey, if you want more of this kind of content, you want to get your questions answered regularly, you want to interact with people, sign up at HawgSports.com for 30% off right now for your first year. That's HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You will join the largest Razorback subscription site in the country. I mean, well, obviously everybody's in Arkansas, but we're one of the 10 largest sites in the nation at 24/7 Sports, and I take a lot of pride in that. But it's 30% off, so it breaks down to $627 a month. That's billed at just $75.18 for the entire year. It's a discount of $44.22. Two great ways to sign up. You can also sign up for the monthly plan, which is $9.95 a month, and get Paramount Plus with that full price subscription for absolutely free. Either way, you're getting something for free. If you like Paramount Plus, which has got some great programming, obviously, you're going to sign up for it anyway, then you might as well sign up for HawgSports and get both. Both. Because I'm both. All right. I think we did it. Plenty of ways to watch and listen. We're on Facebook streaming live. We're on X streaming live. We're on YouTube streaming live. And we're on Instagram streaming live. So follow all those pages if you haven't done so already. Instagram page is pretty new, but I'm just streaming it right now on my X platform just because I didn't want to overdo it. I was scared a little bit. And then right after the show, we're about to upload to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, everywhere there's podcasts, we'll be there. So throat's getting a little sore. We'll be back with you soon. We're not going to take a long delay from this one. I think I've got some things worked out. It's absolutely ridiculous that the solution for me to not have the signal degrade so badly is to start the live stream, unplug my camera, and plug it back in again. If you guys remember, at about the 5-minute mark, the signal just drops off the map for no reason at all. And then you unplug and replug. It's nothing to do with the internet. Thank you, Ozarks Go. We're humming at, I think I did a test before this started. We were at 590 megabits per second up and down wirelessly. Okay. That's with the multi-gig. So, that's like, I think it's 1,500. If I were to plug it right in, it'd be 1,500 megabits per second. But obviously we live in an age where we use Wi-Fi. So you don't quite get the same signal strength using Wi-Fi, but that's humming. That is humming. And for me to get like signal dropping down like that is just ridiculous. So partial camera, partial capture card, dongle. I don't know where it all is, but a lot. All right, everybody. Went extra long for you today. Sorry for the long delay between shows, but we're going to pick it up again. We're going to get Danny in studio so you don't have to worry about his audio issue. Going to get his shining bright face on. Everything's going to be good. It's going to be okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks to Danny for joining us. And yeah, hopefully we'll get Connor Goodson back on soon too. He's had an issue, a tragedy he's been dealing with. So our thoughts and prayers are out with Connor Goodson also and his friends and family. All right, everybody. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.